Welcome back to another episode of the Yellowhammer Sports Podcast. I'm your host, CJ Duncan. Thank you again for tuning in this week. This week, we've got something a little different for you. Of course, this weekend, we saw Alabama get back on track, Auburn win their first SEC game. So those are all great things that we'll eventually get into. But for today, I've got a very, very special guest. Man, I've been waiting on this one for a while. As I was thinking about his bio, I just felt like I could never really, I probably can't do it justice, honestly. Most of you know him as a national champion, World Series champion, incredible baseball player, but man, he is a lot more to a lot more people. He's a husband, a son, a friend, a philanthropist. The list goes on. But today we have Mr. Dansby Swanson. Thank you for being here, my brother. How's it going, man? What's going on with you?
I'm here. I'm here. I wouldn't miss doing something like this.
Well,
Being able to share just whether it's stories, analysis, whatever you want. Being able to talk with my best friend and have it published and recorded is always a good time. So I'm glad to be here.
it's beautiful, man. Well, we are grateful for your time. We know that your time is valuable. It's probably hard to delegate where that time goes in the off season. The routine changes just a bit. How's this off season coming for you?
Man, every one of them's different. Obviously, my wife is still playing currently, so I'm in Atlanta right now. She's still based in Chicago right now. There's some back and forth, going back up to Chicago and staying in Atlanta. Just things are really different every year, right? Like, you got friends getting married, or you got certain training you're going to do, or vacations you're going on. Like, just kind of live moment to moment and week to week, just because you can't get too far ahead. But you just because anything and everything can happen. It's just nice to be able to have a little bit of a downtime. Obviously, we play so many games, the season can get hectic, the schedule can get crazy. So being able to get a little time to rest and relax and start getting things kicked up and ramped up for next season.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so over the last several years, I mean, I guess 8, maybe 10 years at this point, your life has been in the public eye. So I know people know about how who you are now, probably, but let's take it back. Let's take it back to you growing up, one of three kids. You have two siblings. You're the youngest, but you grew up a son of two standout athletes. Do you remember when you first fell in love with sports?
Dude, I don't remember the moment because I think it was just like I was born into it. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I when kids were growing up talking about like watching SpongeBob or any other cartoons, like I was watching Sports Center, I was watching Top Plays, I was watching Baseball Tonight, I was tuning in to Braves games, I was tuning into Cubs games on WGN with my grandfather. Like, I that's all I ever knew. I when people say like ball is life, like that is actually me, right? Like, my brother and sister are 9 and 7 years older than me respectively, and I was I was the one getting dragged around, right? Because I was so much
Hmm.
younger. So from a little age, like I was that kid that was playing wall ball and throwing tennis balls onto the field, interrupting the game and doing anything and everything I could just to like be active and be outside and have fun. So sports is literally my life. Not only what I do, but what I enjoy doing when I'm not in season, right? Like, I love watching football. I love watching basketball. I love supporting, obviously, our alma mater. I love staying in tune with what's happening with Vanderbilt. Love teaching sports and not really coaching, but I like helping kids get to where they want to get to. Uh, all that stuff is just like a passion of mine. I'm now ingrained in the soccer world and starting to understand soccer and strategy and giving my 2 cents and tidbits on what I think works and doesn't work. So I mean, yeah, sports is literally like what I do.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll stay in your early life a little bit. So I'm sure a lot of our viewers don't know that you were a hooper as well. You
Oh yeah.
mentioned briefly that you like watching basketball, but man, I've heard a lot of stories about you in the gym as well. tell me this, going from a big time shooter to now a two-time Gold Glover, up for it, I guess again this year as well. Did any of those skills kind of translate, from the basketball court to the baseball field? Do you feel like that kind of gives you a sneaky advantage on the baseball field?
So there's a couple things that I point to. Number one, I think the biggest thing about hooping in high school was like the competition component and like the playing in front of crowds because we had a pretty good team and like basketball games are obviously fun to go to. Like everyone knows that like going to a high school basketball game was like part of it, right?
It's
And
amazing.
so that was kind of like my introduction into playing in front of crowds, which I really thought helped uh, going into college and playing, in big time atmospheres. Just like having competed in, obviously you can't compare the two, but having competed in intense environments, with your back against the wall a little bit. So from like a mental standpoint, I would say that was big for me. Um, as far as like some of the physical traits, I would say some of the like fluidity and art that basketball possesses, right? Whether it's
Mhm.
making moves one on one or being able to come off screens and shoot jumpers and being able to get your shoulders square and some of the footwork that goes into that, I really felt like has helped me with base running, and it's really helped me defensively. Just kind of like that art that comes with it. I would say those two things are probably the biggest like kind of standouts for me. I
Yeah.
just and the other thing too was it was fun for me. Basketball was like my 4 months being able to get away from a baseball, not throwing or
Yeah.
hitting, and being able to kind of dive into something else that's not baseball related.
Hmm.
So I just thoroughly enjoyed my time. I miss it. I miss it. I really do. I wish,
Yeah.
my real dream is to have played basketball at Duke and somehow ended up in
Yeah.
the NBA. But, I think I'm doing all right for myself now.
He's not kidding. He really is the biggest Duke fan that I personally know. That is not him just talking. So, yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I encourage kids all the time who ask me about, how did you get to college? How'd you do this? How'd you do that? And I give a lot of credit to playing multiple sports. I just think it makes you more athletic. It causes you to put your body in different positions that it's not always in, and somehow or another it's going to translate. And also just playing in front of crowds, different
Mhm.
crowds, I think matters as well. So that makes a lot of sense. So I've had a few guys on already on the Yellowhammer Sports Podcast, and one of my favorite questions to ask them is like, how did you get to wherever you ended up for college? We've had some Bama guys on here, Auburn guys on here. Recruiting processes look different for a lot of people, but you ended up at Vanderbilt. Coming from the Marietta area, you ended up at Vanderbilt. What was the criteria for 18-year-old Dansby Swanson?
Man, I mean, like you said, everyone's got their own unique recruiting journey, right?
Hmm.
Mine, because people when they see me now or when they've seen, the success that happened at Vandy, especially it worked out so perfectly because the SEC network was like really up and coming
Hmm.
when I was in college in 13 to 15. And they were really starting to push like the baseball component. So as Vanderbilt was like continuing its like ascension in the college baseball ranks, we were obviously really, really good. And I
Hmm.
was one of the good players on our team. We had a lot of really good players, but it just kind of people started to get to know me as like this great player, and I've always been that. Well, in high school and everything, I was a little bit of almost like an afterthought for most places. I wasn't heavily recruited. The famous story that I won't go into too much detail is just that I wanted to go to Georgia Tech. I just felt like that's where I was supposed to be, and it was close to home. I just kind of always had some ties to Georgia Tech, and they didn't want me. Like they like straight up told me they didn't think I was good enough to play there, that I wasn't going to be a fit for them. And so my my summer ball coach, James Beavers, he runs the East Cobb Yankees, was like, "Okay, I'm giving you the last chance, Georgia Tech. Like I promise you, this kid's going to be special." And they're like, "No, let's move on to something else." So he called Coach Corbin at Vanderbilt at the time, and basically they sent someone down. They sent not Matt Holliday, Josh Holliday, who's Matt's brother, who's now the coach at Oklahoma State. They sent him down to come watch me play. It was my first game out of basketball. Like I was
Mhm.
like kind of a fish out of water a little bit, right?
Right,
First
right,
game
right,
back.
yeah.
And they just, I guess they saw something in me, whether it was just some of the potential or one thing that they always talked about was like how I interacted with teammates, like kind of like the leadership component. They really enjoyed the energy that I brought to the group. And so it was pretty much like Vanderbilt was recruiting me because they kind of saw
Mhm.
something in me. And I know all your Alabama listeners will love this. Both my parents went to Troy.
Mhm.
My dad played baseball there. My mom played tennis there. So we had ties with Troy. We knew the baseball coach there. And if I didn't end up at Vanderbilt, I was going to end up at Troy. Like that was like kind of number two for me.
Mhm.
But thankfully, the good Lord led me to Vandy. I went on a recruiting visit there, fell in love with it, was able to kind of make some of the scholarship stuff work out that I could end up there, and it kind of just became a no brainer. And
Yeah.
that was literally about the extent of my recruiting. Right? It was just I fell in
Mhm.
love with it. They saw something in me, and then I kind of just ran with the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty wild story. I mean, I'm sure Georgia Tech, they're kicking themselves right about now. But so Coach Corbin, I want to dive into that relationship quickly. I mean, Coach Corbin, in my eyes, is like the Nick Saban of baseball in a sense. He's had an unbelievable run of not just winning, but also developing young men and getting a lot of young men to the pros to where they change the whole dynamic of their families. I know you have so much respect for him as a coach and as a man. Just kind of touch briefly on, what he's done for you over the course of, I guess, these last 10 and 12 years.
Yeah, he Corbs is special, man. Like there's not another person like him. I always tell people he's the perfect blend and balance of knowing how to be obviously your head coach, but also how to be a mentor, how to also be kind of like a second father in a way whenever you were to need that. And then now at this point, like also being able to be a great friend. And he just is just a spectacular human. We he couldn't have been more of a perfect coach for me because he's got a military background. Everything he does is dialed into the minute. The structure is incredible. How he's able to structure a team, how he's able to structure training and practice and all these things that allow kids to develop. And so I operate really good with like a lot of structure. And
Mhm.
so he just basically gave me these parameters of structure and just kind of like allowed me to play within structure. And
Mhm.
I thrived in it. I thrived in the competition. He's all about competition. Like
Mhm.
that's his favorite thing. And I
Yeah.
thrived in it. And I think that just really helped like me grow as a player because I worked, right? Like I worked, I competed, I loved winning. We won a lot. And so the combination of all those things really kind of helped me elevate my game. And obviously, I owe where I am and everything that I've accomplished to him believing in me to start, but also him getting the most out of me while I was there.
Well, oh, it kind of makes me laugh a little bit when you talk about structure and you talking about the military background. I think I remember stories of y'all telling me how he used to get up like early, early in the morning to do his workout before y'all even were in the facilities. Like, tell
Oh,
us,
yeah.
tell us a little bit about that. Like, this man is just running on just a few hours of sleep, but he loves it. He just loves, just being the best he could possibly be in every 24 hours that he gives.
It, I've never really seen someone maximize a 24 hours the way Coach Corbin can, man. Like I just remember when we would have, our 6 a.m. workouts, in the fall, he like made it a point to start his workout at like 4:30 and to like be finishing his workout just in time as we were walking in so that like we knew that he was in
Yeah.
there putting that work in, like
I-
it was almost like he was in a way like flexing on us, but also
yeah.
kind of like didn't even want to acknowledge that we were there. Like he was just putting his work in, and we would come walking in like eyes half open, and he's full sweat on the treadmill or doing some
Hmm.
workout, or he was really into boxing while I was there, and like doing his boxing workouts. Like there was always something going on that was just like this ultimate flex of like this guy works like all the
Yeah.
time. He's always thinking about ways to improve not only himself but our group. And it was a match made in heaven for me when I was there.
Yeah. He's just setting the tone. He's like, look, if this is what I'm doing, I'm not gonna ask you to do anything that I won't
That
do
I'm not going to do
myself.
myself. Yep.
And so the level of intensity that y'all had to show up with every single day, the competitive spirit that y'all had to show up with every single day, it was he led that charge and he did it by working out at 4:30 in the morning every
Oh
day.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So it like we both said, have tremendous amount of respect for Coach Corbin, but one thing I will ask is, as a freshman, okay, you're still trying to figure him out. Like now that it's been a several years, you see in hindsight, who he is, what he meant. But as a freshman, you're coming into Vanderbilt after the departure of Tony Kemp, right? And he says, "Hey, Dansby, I want you to play second base."
Hmm.
I mean, did you question his decision on that at any point? Or what? Because I kind of went through a similar situation. I was a quarterback my whole life, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna try you out at running back or receiver." I know a lot of kids now have trouble with dealing with change or being uncomfortable. So, like, what were your thoughts when you played second base for that short period of time?
Yeah. So actually, my freshman year was Tony's junior year, right?
Junior
And
year, okay, right,
and
okay.
so I was there. I had started like the third game of the year. Our senior shortstop had gotten hurt,
Hmm.
so I kind of got vaulted into playing short. I ended up getting hurt and pretty much missing my freshman season
That's right.
because
Hmm.
of some shoulder and foot injuries. And that's pretty much how we met, because I was there rehabbing in the summer when you were in
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
uh, summer camp. And so sophomore year rolls around, and I distinctly remember I was getting workload at both short and second,
Hmm.
and essentially he brought me in his office. Uh, I want to say it was right before we were leaving for like Christmas break, to where you go home, and then when you come back, it's like preseason to get ready for
Right.
for the year to start. And I just remember him saying like, "Hey, listen, Dansby, you're probably our best shortstop, but you're also our best second baseman. I have someone in Vince Conde who's also a really unbelievable shortstop, and I think that you're basically going to be a better second baseman than him at this time. And I'm going to need you to play second for our team, for the sake of our team. Like, we're going to be better if you play second." And he was like, "We all know that you're going to move back over your junior year, but would love for you to obviously like embrace this role of playing second base." And I was sold when he said we're going to be better for it. Like I was like, "All right, fine.
Hmm.
That's what you want me to do. Like that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
I will work my butt off to be a really good second baseman." And so I played second my sophomore year, the whole year. That was the year we ended up winning national title. So Corbs
Hmm.
has a way of knowing things before anyone else
Yeah.
does. And then
Yeah.
moved back over my junior year to play short. But I just really embraced two things. Number one, the challenge of
Mhm.
playing somewhat of a new position. But number two, like this was what was going to be best for our group. And, that's all I really cared about. And it obviously worked out.
Yeah, and winning solves all problems.
Yeah, it
It's
does.
you
Yeah.
go and win a national championship. Everybody feels good about life, and you go into the offseason with a great attitude. So, like you said, we met summer of 13. You gotten a little banged up during the year, and so it was pretty cool to be able to hang out and get to know you during that time. But like you said, you were a little banged up, and you're kind of going through this period of unknown, in a sense. Like now that you are you 8 years in now?
Yeah,
going on
this next year will be I'll get to 9 full seasons.
nine full seasons. So, uh, 8 year pro, World Series chip, multiple All-Star bids, Gold Gloves. That summer, freshman year, when you're banged up, I
Yeah.
mean, did you have this vision already, or were you just like, hey, one day at a time, wherever it takes me, I'll be ready to go?
You know what's so funny, man, is I remember being in Corb's office. This is like my freshman year, and I have no ground to stand on, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I just finished fall ball. I'd had like a decent fall, like hit decent, played good defense. Like I was kind of right where I was probably supposed to be at that age.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember sitting down in Corb's office, and I was like, he kind of just asked the question of, what do you think of your fall? What do you want your experience to be here? And I just straight up told him, I don't know why I would have done this, but I get it now. But I just tell him, like, I want to be the best Vanderbilt baseball player in history. Like, I
Yeah.
want to be the GOAT for this university in
Mm-hmm.
terms of, and he just kind of looked at me and was like, well, you know, kind of what that takes, right? Like, you know how hard that is. You know the players that we've had before you, right? Like David Price was pretty good. Like
Yeah.
Pedro
Yeah.
Alvarez was pretty freaking good. Like
Uh-huh.
Ryan Flaherty was pretty darn good. Like we've had a lot. We had Sonny Gray, first
Yeah.
rounder. Like we've had a lot of dudes. I said, yes, sir. I get it, but kind of like he's like, well, how do you plan on doing it? And I was like, I'm just gonna work, man. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna work. I believe in myself, and I just have this belief that we can accomplish great things. And he just kind of like nodded his head. And but looking back at it now, it's so funny that I would have said something like that,
Yeah. Just out
you
the
know.
blue.
But
Yeah.
but realistically, I've always just had this vision of putting the work in to be the best that I can be. And I know
Mm-hmm.
it can get so freaking like cliche when people talk about trust your own process and all those kinds of things. But from a young age, like I was kind of always overlooked a little bit, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
obviously with the recruiting story, and I was always a little bit smaller, and uh, it just kind of forced me to know how to play the game. So I had to play the
Mm-hmm.
game at a high level without necessarily the physical blessings because I was going through puberty later than everyone. I was still
Yeah.
playing basketball. I wasn't focused just on baseball. I hadn't really hit my like stride yet.
Yeah.
And I just knew that if I kept putting in the work that I had a chance to be really, really good. And now would
Mm-hmm.
I have sat there and like placed a bet on that I was gonna do what I've done? Maybe, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that all I could control was like my work.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, here we are. So I guess you could say like, yeah, I've always believed in myself, but at the same token, like to sit here and kind of put all these things out and say what's been accomplished, like this past year, I got to my, 1,000th game played. I got my 1,000th
Mm-hmm.
hit. I'm approaching 150 career homers. Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
like kind of crazy to think about the
Yeah.
different accolades and accomplishments, and that I still have 5 years left to play on my contract. So
Right.
we got some more things that we can mark off. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a pretty special journey, man.
Well, you just keep showing up, man, and I think that is half the battle that a lot of people they just stop showing up at times, and a lot of people who have been great in their lives, whether it's baseball, sports, or Bill Gates, Elon, whoever, it's like at some point they were told what they are saying or what they're doing is crazy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that crazy belief is what kind of takes you to the next level in life. And so uh, good on you for being like, you know what? I know better than everybody else around me. This is going to go somewhere. But I do want to talk about that last year, your junior year at Vanderbilt. I remember having conversations with you when it was pretty much um, a, a a two-person competition, two-person race for 1-1 that year. It was between yourself and Alex Bregman, and
Uh-huh.
I remember having those conversations. We've had a couple late nights discussing that, and if he won this award, you won the other one. If it was just kind of back and forth, you were 1 and 2 with it all, and then
Yeah.
finally, I remember I lost my mind. Y'all were in what, super regionals, or where were
hmm
y'all at when
Yeah,
you
we were in
find?
Champaign. We were playing Illinois in
Yeah,
Super
y'all
to
were
go
in
to Omaha.
supers, and comes across the screen, Dansby Swanson won Arizona Diamondbacks. So I know that came with a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations. Mentally, what were you doing? What was kind of your routine to just kind of say, all right, let's stay focused on the next at bat, next ground ball. What did you do to stay Dansby, right? And not allow that type of pressure get to you.
Yeah, it's kind of a multi-layered answer, right? I think
Mhm.
the initial thing is number one, how I was raised.
Yeah.
Going back to just my childhood and the lessons that my parents taught me, and growing up in church and growing up with a faith background and understanding, and as you get older, you understand it more and more. But I just kind of knew that that was right, that that was the
Mhm.
right thing, to be centered around your faith, to be centered around having God lead you and allowing for his light and presence to shine, right? And
Right.
understanding that my identity is in Jesus. It's not in what I do. It's not in a label of being drafted 1-1 or, you know, first team SEC or second team or any of those things. It was
Mhm.
never about that. So that I think that is like the first part of it. The second part was we were really good. Like we were really, really good. And so having a team in which the ultimate goal was winning, and as a leader on that team, I had to, and it's always been my passion is winning. Like I have an obsession over winning. And so that was really my priority was
Mhm.
winning. And so keeping that perspective was also, I think, really helped alleviate some of the personal pressure, because all that mattered was me doing what I need to do to help us win baseball games, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that that also helped. And then the third thing was we had other great players on our team. Like we had Carson Fulmer, who I think was drafted maybe eighth overall that season,
Mhm.
seventh or eighth. And then we had Walker Buehler, who was drafted, I want to say 24th to the Dodgers. Uh, that same year, we'd had Xander Wheel, who was drafted in I want to say the 10th round. Rhett Wiseman was drafted in the third round. Phil Pfeiffer was drafted, I want to say maybe in the third or fourth round. We had some other young kids that were going to get drafted
Yeah,
pretty
like
high.
X was at third base, right?
He was at third base. We had Will Toffey was playing some third.
Yeah.
Uh, Jaron Kendall, who was a first
Yeah.
rounder.
Yeah.
We had Ben Bowden, who was drafted in the second round his junior year. Brian Reynolds was a high pick his junior year. So we were flooded with talent. And I'm honestly probably
Mhm.
missing out on a couple of guys. I think Jordan Sheffield was drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of talent. And Carson and I obviously were best friends. Walker and I were super, super close. We're still close to this day. Being able to have those guys where we could kind of like pull away from the group. And if we
Mhm.
had things that we needed to discuss about some personal things when it came to whether it was pressure or just like, hey, I'm hearing this about the draft. What are you hearing? Being able to kind of like separate ourselves away from the team, dorm late night or whatever, and have those conversations was good to be able to kind of get off your chest, to be able to vent a little bit and talk about things, and have it not take away from the group, have it not pull not cause distractions basically for our group. And so
Yeah.
those three things I feel like were really big just from a personal standpoint and dealing with the pressure, so to speak, because when your heart's in the right places, that other stuff just kind of comes with it, and it takes
Mhm.
care of itself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So all right, you finish that year, you get drafted. what do you think? What do you believe is your like welcome to the big league moment? Was there an at bat? Was there a conversation, a business decision? What really opened to your eyes saying, "Hey, I'm in the pros"? I got a story in my head. Well, it's not really a story, but a thought in my head about a big league moment for you. I'll discuss it later, but I want to know
Yeah,
what
I
you
want
think
to.
it
After I
was.
give you my two, I don't know. I want you to tell me yours because the first one was the introduction to business, right? It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
negotiating signing bonus when you're drafted high.
yeah.
That in itself was just like,
Crazy.
I'm used to, belief being poured into you and not being told how great you are, but some belief and loyalty, right? Well, when you're
Hmm.
negotiating business, it's not about like they're trying to knock you down, brother. They're trying to tear
Yeah,
you down. They're trying to obviously they want to save some money. We're trying to maximize our dollar. So that was kind of like that, and then getting traded obviously were like my eye-opening,
yeah,
jaw-dropping moments of like, oh my gosh, like business is real. Like it is. We have
yeah.
this saying in Chicago, it's a jungle out there, and it truly is like a freaking jungle, man. Like
Hmm.
it is kill or be killed, like eat or
Yeah.
be eaten. So I would say that was part of it. My first on field experience that was like, welcome to the big leagues was it was the last game of the season. We're still at Turner Field. This is why I got called
Mhm.
to the big leagues. We're still at Turner Field. Last game of the year. We're not playing for anything. We're just playing for pride. We're playing Detroit, and they have to win to get into the playoffs. Okay.
Hmm.
So, and we were not a fun team to play at this time because we were kind of on a heater, right? Like I want to say we were like 20-10 in our last 30 games or something. Like we were playing really well with a team that hadn't played well all year. So we're facing Verlander and like kind of like prime Verlander, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In the
Just
last game of the year. So you'll never forget my first at bat. I go up there, I swing at the first pitch. I hit this like bullet one hopper that he like snags on the first pitch and throws me out at first. So the next at bat, I'm up there. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna like auto take. I'm just gonna take a pitch. I already swung at the first pitch. I'm gonna take one, dude. He snaps off a curveball to me, dude. That I was auto taking, and like when you're auto taking, you kind of just like stand there, and then when they throw it, you just kind of like turn and just like,
turn. Yeah,
Doug. He buckled me, and I wasn't even trying to swing. Doug. He like,
yeah.
I remember he like buckled me, and I kind of like did one. Was like, kind of like,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it. And I just
Oh
remember
my
that the rest of that
goodness.
bat, I'm like, dude, I'm screwed. Like,
This
if I'm
so
auto
now your
taking,
your thoughts are like this
oh,
now. You're
dude,
just
I was jumbled in the brain, dude. I just remember like, golly, this guy just buckled me on a freaking curveball, and I wasn't even planning on swinging. Like,
at least it was
this is
Verlander.
the big
Like,
boy league. But it's
yeah.
funny, we actually we won that game. We scored a run in the first inning. I'll
Hmm.
never forget it. Julio Teheran was pitching for us, and we scored in the first inning. It was like a classic. Ender got a base hit, stole second. We had a guy hit a ground ball to second to move him to third with one out. I think Freddie hit like a sac fly, and we won the game 1-0. Julio pitched like 7 innings, punched out 14. It was just like one of those games where it was just like a pretty surreal moment. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was like my kind of welcome to the big leagues. Like, you're here, buddy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that makes a lot more sense than mine probably will. That's a lot better. I'm still thinking about that picture you sent me when you were still with the Diamondbacks. I don't
Uh
know if I think you were taking BP like live BP or something like
huh. Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And I'm pretty sure, and I tell people all the time, or at least close family and friends, I'm like, you know why he wears that guard on his helmet, right? I said this first like big league at bat at practice, he takes like 98 to the chin.
yeah, yeah. Oh
And
yeah, dude. I'll never forget that. I mean, my freaking face was swollen up. You can't really see because I have a beard, but I got like a scar right about here. I ended up getting like 6 stitches on the outside of my mouth and had like 8 on the inside of my mouth, dude. That was, yeah, it was like a I just got drafted, so they were trying to like ramp me back up so I could go play with an affiliate. And so I'm hitting live BP off a guy that was throwing really hard. And it was just like to get some live at bats before I was going to go off. And dude, I got freaking smoked right in the face. Worn a face guard ever since then, brother. I'll
Yeah,
tell you.
that would make me switch it up quickly.
Yeah,
Man, I
yeah,
mean, to even get back in that box and stay in there after get hit in the faces, wow. It's
dude.
absolutely
I don't
wild.
remember. I literally, I by the grace of God, I do not remember it. I just remember what I remember is waking up, like literally waking up in the batter's box, standing there with like a puddle of blood beneath me and people freaking out. And I'm like, what
Yeah,
happened? You know, like
yeah, yeah.
I feel like my face is throbbing. So
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of putting them together, but like I don't know what's going on. You know, they're like,
I mean, he
lay
essentially
down, like
knocked you out cold.
lay
Like,
down. We need to check, make sure your jaw's still intact. I'm like, guys, okay, I'll lay down to appease you, but I know my jaw's not broken. Like, I just remember like kind of being like, all right, I'm good. Like, I just got up and kind of just like somewhat walked off the field, not really knowing what was going on, but walked off the field, like sat on the golf cart and they freaking hauled me back to the locker room or the medical room. Dude, oof.
I could not imagine. I
But there's
really
no
could.
video of it either. For whatever reason, the video wasn't working at that field at spring training that day or at the spring training facility.
Yeah.
So there's no video of it either. So like I couldn't even go back and watch it if I wanted to.
Well, that probably plays to your favor then, that you can't even go look at it. But so, like you mentioned, like before you could even get a major league game in, you're traded to the Atlanta Braves. Not any fault of your own, just business of baseball that particular year. Did you have a mixed bag of emotions when that happened, or were you just like, man, this is a God thing? Like I'm going home. Like,
Man,
where were you at with it?
I was still young, dumb, and naive, you know.
Hmm.
And when I had signed, I'm a loyal guy, you know that.
Yeah,
I'm
for
as
sure.
loyal as it comes, and freaking, I just had this idea in my head that like I committed to Arizona. They're committing back to me. I see this vision and future of what things can become in Arizona. I want to be a part of it. And then that getting kind of ripped away really hurt. Like it just hurt. It
Mhm.
hurt deep. It like cut a freaking wound, man, because it just felt like I was getting traded away, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And that night, I'll never forget it. That night when I found out, it I wouldn't say it like broke my world. I was shocked. I was in shock. And
Mhm.
my phone's freaking blowing up, dude. Like
Mhm.
I, I legitimately got, I want to say 150 phone calls and 300 something text messages. And my initial reaction was like, this is the worst thing ever. Like, this is
Yeah.
literally the worst thing ever. Like,
Mm.
I had this plan in my head that I was gonna play till I got to free agency in Arizona. And then once I became a free agent, I was gonna, hopefully set myself up in this position to sign, you know, a deal to go to Atlanta, and that was the plan that was going to be for me. Well, quickly did I realize that God had other things in store for me, right? And so,
He laughs when we
it,
tell him our plans, right?
right, right, and it ended up being the like biggest blessing, obviously, that one could think of, being able to
Mhm.
go back home, not only to be able to play, for your hometown team and to be able to win a World Series there. But being able to be close to family was awesome. Being able to be, embedded in the community that I grew up in was great. Being around some of my closest friends, from childhood, all that was amazing. Never would have met my wife if I didn't get traded back to Atlanta. Um, so I mean, it's funny. It's like such a moment where only God can create this story and this path that like I couldn't write that. I couldn't script that. I couldn't come up with that. And thank goodness that I'm not the one in control, because things have worked out so much better because of it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, man, it's almost like you do this podcast thing. Because I mean, every time I ask a question, you tee me up for my next question.
Hey
So
brother, I know all about it. I know all about the hustle.
yeah, it's almost like you know what you're doing over there. But you know, we couldn't have this conversation without talking about your better half, and
The goat. The goat.
the goat, literally the goat. She, I mean, I get this question all the time. How in the world does two exceptional athletes in their prime not only meet each other, but also like fall in love, and then with their schedules, still find a way to make it work. So, like for the audience, tell them a little bit about how y'all met and just how
Yeah.
this craziness has happened and turned into like the best relationship I know.
I'll try and keep it to like the long, good story bullet points. So
Yeah.
basically, my first spring training, I'm in down in Orlando at Wide World of Sports. And a guy named Jace Peterson is on the Braves, plays second base. And we just became like quick, close friends. He's from Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Hmm.
Awesome dude, you know, priorities in the right place, great family. An unbelievable dude. Well, we just took a liking to each other. I think our lockers were either next to each other or, we had maybe one locker spaced out in between
In
us.
between. Yeah.
And I just remember him being like, "Hey, my wife, Bree, her little sister is an amazing soccer player. Like let's say at the time she was 18." And he's like, "Dude, y'all would be perfect for each other. I'm
Hmm.
21 or whatever. She's 18." He's like, "Y'all would be perfect for each other." And I just kind of like laugh and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, like
Hmm. Hmm.
I've heard that, you hear that all the time, right?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so as the year progresses, or it's that next season, or it's 2017, Shayna Matthews, it was Shayna Williams at the time, but Shayna Matthews, who's married to Jordan Matthews, probably the GOAT Vanderbilt receiver of all time, and
For
honestly,
sure.
probably top five in
Player.
the like
Yeah.
unbelievable career. Well, we were really close friends because she played soccer for a year at Vandy. She had then transferred to Florida State, but she was actually on the same team as Mal, and we were playing in DC, and they were both in DC playing for the Washington Spirit. And she's like, "Hey, I want to come to a game. Uh, Mal is going to come with me because she wants to see Jace." And it was like one of those things where like Jace had just gotten sent to AAA like 2 days before. And
Hmm.
so Mal, I guess, just decided to tag along anyways. So
Hmm.
after the game, they come down on the concourse and uh, I'm seeing Shayna, I'm meeting Mal, and like I was like kind of like into it. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
like, "Hey,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
girl's cute, she's funny, she's cool." Come to find out now, she like didn't think the same really about me. You know what I mean? I'm like thinking that I'm like
You kill it.
charming.
You think you're like, oh,
I'm
I'm doing
like
my thing right now.
charming, laughing, smiling, whatever, being funny. And that was like kind of the start of it because I was into her. And like the story goes, I sent Shayna like the like eye emoji, like, "Dang, like this
Right.
girl, this girl,
Immediately.
this
Yeah.
girl's cute." Like, you know what I mean? So that off season, she kind of knew who I was, but like she wasn't into me. Well, that off season at Bree and Jace's wedding down in Louisiana, I got invited, so I bop on over there, and dude, we like just hit it off at this wedding. Like
Yeah.
love was in the air, I guess, and
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
hit it
Yeah.
off at
Yeah.
this wedding, and literally like from then on, I mean, we obviously like stayed in touch, and then decided to go out and see her right before the year was going to start. It was like January of 2018. I was like, "I'm going to come out to Colorado and see you," and kind of like this will kind of be a determining thing. Like, do we want to make this happen? Like, do we want to
Yeah.
start a relationship? So went out there, everything obviously went smooth, and then kind of the rest is history, dude. Like we just really enjoyed each other, fell in love. God put us together, and
Yeah.
we've obviously, grown our relationship since then. And uh, yeah, now we're married. We're about to be going on 2 years here in a couple months, and yeah, man, it was only a God thing, like truly.
Yeah. Do you think, I don't know that I've asked you this before, but when you were headed down to Louisiana for the wedding, in the back of your head, were you like, all right, this may be another opportunity to like catch that girl I met with Shayna? Or was this like, truly just about Jace and, whatever happens, happens kind of thing?
It, it's funny, man, because that was a really, really tough time in my life just because that year was a really, really, it was the first time I'd ever really struggled, like really, really
Hmm.
struggled on a baseball field.
Yeah.
And so I was in probably a pretty good state of depression, like straight up.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so I didn't want to go. I wanted to like seclude myself from anybody and
Everybody.
everybody. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to be, I didn't want
Yeah.
to be heard of or heard
Hmm.
from.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? It's the right thing to do. Like Jace is obviously the homie. I should go and support him and be there for his big day. And in somewhat of the back of my mind, it was kind of like she's going to be there, but it wasn't really like I'm coming out of this freaking wedding with Mal being my girlfriend. Like
Hmm.
that was not on my mind.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, once we got around each other, man, and like at the wedding festivities, we just
Yeah.
fell in love, man. It was
Well, it sounds like she just brought you a lot of joy
yeah,
at the perfect
it
timing too. You know
brought
what I mean? Like,
brought me through a really, really tough stretch of my life. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
just really, really brought me through almost unintentionally. Just her being
Yeah.
who she is
Her presence. Yeah.
opened my eyes and changed my heart, changed my life, and obviously forever grateful for it.
Yeah. Well, in 2021, you probably had the biggest moment of your professional career.
Yep.
Meeting Mal was probably the best moment of your life. I'll give her credit there. But professional career in Houston, Texas, you seal a World Series with the final out in front of Mal and the rest of your family. And the game before, you hit a big home run to secure a victory there as well. It's like, what did that moment mean to you? Just living out a childhood dream for your hometown team with all your closest folks like in attendance.
It's really hard to put into words how number one, how hard a full 162 is, how
Yeah.
hard that is. And
And you've done and not to cut you off, you've done a full 162.
correct,
Like no games missed.
correct. And it's one of those where like no one knows the pain of what it's like to number one, play that many games, get to the playoffs and lose. It hurts. It hurts, right? Like you spend hours and hours and hours at the field. You spend a lot of blood, sweat, and tears literally each and every year. And so to have that moment of something that everyone is soon when you get together in spring training, that's what you're talking about, right? Is what can we do to put ourselves to be the best team at the end of the year, right? Like
Yeah.
what can we do to win it all? And to experience that a childhood dream with your family, your better half, with your best friends that have pretty much had the same dream for you since you
The
were
entire
little,
way.
and to do it for the team that you grew up watching, it it really is pretty surreal, right? Like
Hmm.
it's just an incredible moment, one that you'll never forget, and once you wanting it again, like it leaves you with that like taste in your mouth of wanting to experience that again.
Did you ever let it sink in? Like I know how busy you are, and then especially after winning the World Series, I mean your schedule's packed with appearances and this and that. And did it ever sink in, or were you forced to just kind of turn the page pretty quickly to the next year?
You know, what's funny, man, is right after we won, we had a parade like 2 days later. I literally pretty much like once the parade was done, I left and hopped on a plane and went up to Chicago because Mal was starting her playoff run for the
Hmm.
NWSL. So like I had to turn the page pretty quickly just because of wanting to support her and her journey, just like she did for me. So that was kind of part of it. But it hasn't really sunk in. I mean, I think one thing that I'm not great at is fully appreciating and enjoying moments because as athletes, you're always looking for ways to get better or looking ways to recreate success. Or it's one of those things I always tell people like, maybe ask me at the end of my career because right now the perspective is how can we accomplished that again just now. I'm doing it, in Chicago with the Cubs as opposed to Atlanta and with the Braves. So you kind of force yourself to turn the page, and whether that's the right way or wrong way to do it, it's just kind of the reality of an athlete's life of like, great year, like
Yeah.
we achieved it, but we got to do it again,
Yeah.
and so I think that has probably been the toughest thing that I'm still obviously trying to work on and be better at, is just enjoying each day, and not always trying to look ahead of ways to get better and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and as an outsider looking in, I'm just thinking about just the legacy itself. I mean, it just doesn't happen every day. Not only for Atlanta and the Braves, but also your family.
Right.
Just what that moment in time did for everybody involved, and for you to um, do that, it's an incredible accomplishment. But I will say quickly, you probably have like top three, top five best parade fits of all time.
Hey,
That jersey that you
I'm
wore in Atlanta, come on,
I'm
man.
glad I'm glad that you pointed out, because
Like you gotta
not
get
that I
more
think it
credit for
goes
that.
under unnoticed or underappreciated, but the fit was about as
And
perfect as it could get for
it
for
doesn't
that
get
moment.
more Atlanta. It doesn't get more Atlanta than your fit. And I want everybody to go look up Dansby Swanson, I guess World Series parade outfit. It is immaculate. Immaculate.
Fact.
Um,
Fact.
so the good times keep rolling in 2022. You make your first All-Star game. You marry Mal. And it was no shock to me that, you made an All-Star team. I mean, everywhere you go, you win or you find ways to be successful. But let's talk about this wedding, man. When I
Bruh.
tell you that wedding
Dog.
was was incredible. I mean, I'll say this: the ceremony was beautiful. It just matched y'all so well.
Yeah.
I could see both of your personalities coming out. There was a focus on your walk with God, and it was amazing. But when I tell you that after party was a movie.
Dog. I just wish, it's so funny. You know how many people I've had say basically this exact quote of, I forgot how ratchet you really are. Like, because, bruh, like the reception,
Oh,
I mean, it went from like literally maybe the first like 30 minutes of it were like trying to appease everybody that's there, like the old
hmm.
folks and people that aren't, going to be down with the whole rap game. And I just remember our buddy Pie, who was DJing, DJ Pie, and him just being like, coming over with my big, sorry everyone, this next song I am unable to find an edited version to it. And immediately played freestyle by Baby. And
Yeah,
from then on, bro, it was game on. And it was like,
game on.
it wasn't like your traditional like fun rap songs that everybody knows. Like it was like straight out of like the bag,
Yeah,
bro. It was
yeah,
like
no, no.
we were playing Future, we were playing Baby, we were playing Luda. Like if it was a banger, like a
Yeah,
banger, it was on.
yeah,
And I remember getting up on stage and rapping "What's Your Fantasy" like it was a
yeah,
concert for everybody.
100%.
Mal was crowd surfing, like she
Yeah,
was getting crowd surfed by everyone, like pushed all the way to the back, and like, dude, it was ratchet. And I
I
remember like one of our last songs we played was "Throw It Up" by Lil Jon, Pastor Troy, and them. And bro, I just remember like it was like a mob, bro. Like it was just
yeah,
it.
it
It's
was.
it's hard to even explain how much of a party it was, and then to leave there, immediately go to like the after party where Waffle House caters, like Waffle House is catering, we got a speaker system set up, and it just like it continued
It
to
just kept
like
going.
it literally continued till like 4 a.m.
And guys, he says Waffle House catered. it wasn't like it was pre-made food that was in the fridge for everyone to get.
Nah,
It wasn't
they're whipping
accessible
up
everywhere.
waffles, hash browns,
They were
eggs,
literally
sausage.
there. Like the Waffle House cooks were there
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
after party saying,
yeah.
"Hey, what do you want for breakfast? What do you want to eat?" Like,
My guy at
wow.
Waffle House hooked us up. We were trying to like figure out a way to like incorporate some type of like fun Atlanta thing for some of the food. And I hit up my guy Walt at Waffle House. I was like, "Hey man, what can you do for me?" He's like, "Oh, no problem. Like we'll have the catering team there, bro." And they just like they hooked us up.
They
You know,
did
like
it.
that Travis Porter song? It's like honey sauce biscuit. Like
Yeah.
that was literally like the after
Yes.
party, bro. Like
Yes.
dog.
Yes. No, I mean, it was one of the it probably was the best party. I'm not gonna get in trouble with my wife. Our wedding was the best. Trish, if you're listening.
If you take your own wedding out, bro, it wasn't even like the best wedding ever. It was like literally like the best
The
party.
best party, like the
Yeah.
best party I've ever attended in my life. And it was crazy. It was crazy.
It was, you
Um,
know what's funny though, is because Pi, when we had Pi come do it, because Pi's like a really good buddy of ours, we are like, "Hey man, this is what we're gonna do. We want you to come DJ our wedding so that you can be at the wedding." Because I mean, guys, we had like 250 people at our wedding. Like it wasn't like this
yeah.
like small, like we had a massive wedding. And so he was basically there just partying with us, but set up all his DJ equipment. And literally it was like ox. He wasn't like spinning
Hmm.
nothing. I don't even know if his table was working properly. It was just
Right.
like go up, request a song, like put it on the queue, put it on the queue, put it on the queue. And it was just banger after banger after banger.
Well, it's a good party when Freddie Freeman gets out on the dance floor, man. Freddie
And
was
ripped it up and ripped it up.
cutting up out there, man. Freddie Freeman, man, that's still like a vivid memory of mine. Man, what a day, what a time. So happy for y'all. To stick with Mal a little bit more this weekend in Nashville, we were celebrating 100 caps for your wife.
Mm-hmm.
This summer, she also celebrated winning the Olympic gold in a big win over Brazil. What's even crazier about all of this, she's coming off of a significant knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've had your fair share of injuries as well. Um, what was that moment like for y'all as a family, where you're seeing her live out her dreams, but also it's like, I'm familiar with your ups and downs as well. Like to see her also kind of overcome some type of devastation, and she has a strength, and she also has the belief that she can once again do it again, and not only she do it again, she does it as big as possible. Like, what was that for y'all as a family?
Man, if people could have experienced it firsthand like we did when we went through the whole injury thing when she got hurt and tore a patella tendon, and then all the surgeries that unfolded after that. She ended up having 3 surgeries that year. Really battled a really tough infection from the first surgery, and just all the things that came with it, and just seeing really her be sick and hurt and in pain and having to go through a rehab process and then have setback after setback and then overcome just anything that was thrown her way, and to see her do it with the grace and the attitude and keeping her faith and staying centered around the right things, seeing that, and then getting to the point that she did this summer in France when she was a key piece of the reason why they were able to win gold. Obviously, it's a full team effort. It's a full, I believe they had 18 girls. It's a full 18 girl effort. But to see her log the minutes that she did, to score some of the goals she did, to really just help put the punctuation, the exclamation mark on a gold medal game is like something of a movie, right? Like only God could have scripted it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like only
no, for
he.
sure.
The NFL script writers ain't got nothing on my guy
Yep.
God. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like they ain't got
for
nothing on
sure.
my guy Jesus. And to see her have that moment was, dude. I mean, I swear for 2 straight weeks, bro. Every time I watched them play, I would just like cry. Honestly, like it
Yeah.
was it was like this like just joyful tier of just like moment after moment that she was involved in. Um, and putting God's love on display was just like, wow,
Yeah.
wow. Like she achieved her goal of winning a gold medal, and she
Yeah.
scored the game winning freaking goal, man. Like
Yeah. I,
making me go.
I, I,
I'm about to go watch some highlights.
yeah, no, like, I mean, I went up to her this weekend and I was like, look, I get the whole idea of it being a team sport and this, that, and the other, but like, have you thought about that? Like, you scored the winning goal against Brazil. Like, I was like, I know I have. I'm going around talking. My sister scored.
Yeah, yeah,
Like she the one. And of course, y'all are just so humble that like y'all would never look at it in that way. But like that is epic.
yeah, yeah. Literally,
World Series, national championship, gold medal, and
World
hopefully
Cup.
World Cup.
I know.
So it's like, yo, do you are that's why I asked you earlier. Like, has it sunk in? And so I wanted to give her flowers this week, and I was like, sis, you did that. Like, it's
It's like the
amazing. And
trifecta, dude. Like we talk like
yeah,
the trifecta of win a World Cup, win a gold medal, and 100 caps. Like the trifecta of achievement in the women's game. And
yeah,
I don't know how many girls in the history of the game have accomplished that. I don't have those numbers or those stats pulled up. Uh, I don't even know where to find those, but
yeah.
I can imagine it's probably a short list, and she's on
Yeah, well, nine's my goat. I'll go ahead and put it out
it.
there. So
Niner, yeah, I know.
Niner is my goat. So as long as I've known you, man, family and friendships have always been just high priority for you. And I mean, you're still best friends with the guys that you grew up with
Hmm.
in Georgia, and you have some really special relationships that you've developed while you're in the pros as well. I won't list them all, but Freddie is one of them. We talked about him briefly earlier, and all that y'all accomplished with the Braves, it makes sense why y'all are so close. And he's just a good guy, just a really good man, family man. How happy are you for him as he seems to be like basically hitting his way to a MVP of the World Series?
Yeah, I'm just thrilled for him, man. Like to just see everything that he's gone through, obviously from his transition from Atlanta to LA and the success that he's had on the field. But even just, I know for him this year personally, some of the challenges that have come his way just with his son being sick and having to fight through all that with his family and just the amount of stress and difficulty that creates is it's just really, really amazing to watch. And I think that once again, it just all comes back to like God is so good. God has these plans, and it's not our job to question those things. It's our job to continue to put our heads down and work in the ways that He's called us to. And I think that Freddie's kind of a living proof of that right now. Obviously at the highest stage, and even for him, obviously to battle through all this stuff with his son this year, and the struggles that have come with that, but also, he's playing hurt, right? Like
Yeah,
he's got a bad ankle problem. And I know that if Freddie's showing that he's in pain, like I know he's in pain.
it's real pain. Yeah,
I've watched that guy play through a lot of things, and for him to be able to have the success at this elite level that he's having it right now on the brink of obviously winning his second World Series championship and all that, and to do it with the performance that he's putting on, man, is like it's just so awesome. I couldn't be
yeah.
happier for him. We've gotten so close.
Hmm.
We've honestly gotten closer as we've not been teammates. We stay in
Y'all kind
touch
of
a
went through
lot.
the same thing, right?
Yeah,
So
we went through
that's
the
another
same
way to
type of
connect.
thing. We're Chelsea, his wife, and Mal are good friends, and we try and go to dinner with them whenever they're back in Atlanta. We go to dinner with them in spring training. They're awesome people that we love being able to talk to and relate to on certain things. And yeah, I just couldn't be happier for the guy.
Yeah, yeah, good for Freddie, man. Just all around good guy, man. So before we get you out of here, man, let's talk a little bit about college sports.
Say
You
less.
are a huge football fan, man.
Yep.
How about those Commodores? I'm sure my fan base is tired of me saying it. We fell short this weekend, but I know you watch these games just as intently as I do, and we had some conversations this weekend and just about the job that Coach Clark Lee is doing with this team and the type of fight that this team has. What are you seeing out of the guys this season, and what does this say about our program going forward?
It couldn't have come at a better time for the football program to like really kind of change the narrative on West End. Just the transformation that we saw that we're seeing before our eyes is pretty amazing. Not only the success on the field, but just with the facilities, the renovations they're doing. They're the Vandy United project of, I want to say, they're pouring in, it's like 300 million or something into the facilities, whether it's football, baseball, basketball. I know they just finished up their stuff over at Legends for the golf team. They're doing a lot of stuff for the tennis team. Just seeing this like transformation happen and Vanderbilt starting to become the athletic university that we as former, athletes there, uh, always kind of envisioned it being, right? Like it is a
Yeah.
special place. I've never met anyone that has gone there and spent their entire time at Vanderbilt and hasn't left saying that this place is special and it has the potential
Mhm.
for a lot. And I'm just really thankful that the university and Chancellor Deermeyer, they're all like buying into athletics,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
and so that's number one. The Obviously Clark's done a tremendous job. I don't think that anyone in the whole industry has made a better hire than him, with him bringing in
Hmm.
and Jerry Kill and is it Tim Beck, I believe is his name, the offensive coordinator,
Hmm.
bringing those guys in, that staff from New Mexico State, has really, really done a number for that program. And I think that obviously, I know your listeners going to hate it, but them beating Alabama and not flukishly. I know we've talked about that. Not
Right.
flukishly, like
Right.
legitimately beating them. Obviously, really changed the narrative, and it kind of started with that Virginia Tech win, right? Started with the Virginia
Hmm.
Tech win. They get off to a pretty good start. They falter with Georgia State, and then um, you know, take Mizzou to the brink on the road, which no one anticipated, and then
Right.
beating Alabama really set the tone for what this program's becoming. I know that there's no such thing as a moral victory, but to see Vanderbilt take number 5 Texas to the very end again,
Hmm.
just shows a lot about where they're at. It shows, recruiting stuff going forward, that this place is special. It can be sustainable, and that if you want to play high level ball, like you can go to Vanderbilt and play high level football
Yeah.
and have a chance to progress your career into the professional ranks. So Clark's done an unbelievable job. I've told you this. The two things that stand out most for me, because I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, is number one, Clark's been able to change his approach. Like legitimately say what I was doing my first couple of years is not working. And to be
Hmm.
able to somewhat, not necessarily change his personality, but change his coaching style to be able to maximize the belief of the players within the program speaks volumes to his ability to evolve as a coach. I would say that's number one. And then the second thing is, and I've told a lot of people at Vanderbilt this recently, like Vanderbilt gets this image outside of it that it's a very almost like elitist school, right? That is high
Hmm.
academics and that you got to be a certain type of way to be a Vanderbilt person.
Right.
And at the end of the day, when I view Vanderbilt and how I view it, is Vanderbilt is about achievement. It's about
Hmm.
achievement in the classroom. It's about achievement, once you leave school. And achievement comes in all different shapes, sizes, and forms, right?
Hmm.
And this football team has found a way to achieve at a very high level. And that is the Vanderbilt way. The Vanderbilt way is not what
Yeah.
people think it. Vanderbilt way is about achieving.
Yeah.
And they are achieving in their own way. And I've thoroughly enjoyed being able to watch it and follow it. And I'm just so proud of that group and excited to kind of see where it goes from here. Because it firmly feels sustainable and that they can continue this moving forward.
Yeah. No, for sure. I couldn't have said it any better, and we're not sneaking up on guys anymore, right? And still to be able to perform and put out that product on Saturday, it made me to be a proud Commodore. Do you have any predictions for kind of SEC championship or which SEC teams to kind of watch out for as the playoff comes around later on this year?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is I don't think that this is Georgia's best team that they've had recently. However, Georgia just has an Alabama problem, right? Like
Yeah,
they beat everybody else, but they haven't been able to beat Alabama really.
hmm
And so I still kind of put them at the top just because I've seen Kirby's track record when it comes to big games, when it comes to all those things, that his players just seem to rise to the occasion. The Texas A&M thing is interesting for me because
Okay.
post week 1, when they obviously got beat by Notre Dame at home, they've really, really kind of turned it around. I mean, I think they're the only
Mhm.
undefeated team in the SEC. They're sitting at 5-0. I do worry a little bit about their quarterback play. Like, I know the kid that came in against LSU, his last name's Reed, I believe. I forget.
Yeah, number 10. Yeah. Yeah.
If someone actually goes into a game being able to game plan him, I'd be intrigued to see how
hmm
they fare. But obviously they're top in the SEC right now, so it'll be interesting because I know Georgia's still got some tough games left.
Yeah.
I think they still got Tennessee. I want to say maybe it's either at home or at Tennessee, and they still got someone else that I think's a pretty formidable opponent. But I would imagine it's probably going to end up being a Georgia A&M matchup. I love how the SEC finally got rid of the divisions. It's
Yeah.
like the worst thing ever, man.
Well, I
Um,
was telling somebody this weekend, I'm like, when's the last time Texas has been in Nashville? Like, because
right.
they've gotten rid of the divisions and, added teams to the conference, it's like we would have never been able to experience
Well,
that if I still have stadiums I've never been to, and I've played in the SEC
right.
for 4 years.
I know, and I've been enjoying seeing just like the Maj Podge of like the shuffle basically of who
Yeah.
gets to play who, and also too it makes it you actually get to see the two best teams play each other, right?
Yeah.
Because for so long, I mean, when the SEC East for the past I don't know 7-8 years has been pretty down other than Georgia, right? Like Florida
Right.
hasn't been what Florida should be. Kentucky's been
hmm
kind of middle of the pack. Vanderbilt's been eh.
Tennessee's been
Tennessee is
down.
is obviously they were down. They're kind of on the uptick now. Unfortunately, Mizzou was kind of whatever. Like there was just South Carolina was you know, and so
hmm
it's like all these Eastern teams are just kind of like battling it out, like bottom barrel, and Georgia's just crushing. But then you get on the West, it's like, hey, Ole Miss is pretty freaking good. Alabama's
Yeah. Yeah.
darn good. LSU's got a great team. A&M's always really good. And so you're like, well, this is kind of silly. Like all the best teams are on the West, but
Stuck
only one
in
of them can
second.
go. So now that we have gotten rid of it, we actually, I feel like get the two best, which is nice.
Yeah.
I'm really, we can talk a little bit about Alabama. I mean, I've always been an Alabama appreciator. I
hmm
loved watching them play just because dude, I almost freaking cried when Saban retired. I swear. Like when Mal
Yeah.
told me about it, I was devastated. I was
Yeah.
devastated.
No, we all
And
were.
oh, dude, so I'm really intrigued to just see how things fare out moving forward. Just because you had to kind of expect some lumps, with kind of a first year coach, guy
hmm
that's not necessarily familiar with the SEC and how it works and just how tough it truly is. But he's also been really successful everywhere he's gone, right? Like
Yeah.
you've got no
He'll be
reason to
fine.
believe that he won't be able to like get things going how he wants it. But this is a tough league to do that in, man. It
Yeah.
just is, and I think you see that on a weekly basis, man. Like LSU's coming in hot, and A&M just
Yeah.
beats the crap out of them, and then Ole Miss is supposed to be the team, and they had two bad
They've gotten
losses,
beaten
and it's just
twice.
like,
Yeah.
man, it's a jungle. Like I said, as
It,
we say, it's a jungle.
yeah, it's a jungle. It is definitely a jungle. Well, Dan's my brother. Oh man, I can't thank you enough for doing this and being with us here at the Yellowhammer Sports Podcast. Just know you're always welcome. If you get bored at some point during this offseason, you let me know. All
Hey, I'll
right.
be I'll be a weekly guest analyst. Do you know what I mean? Give you my 2 cents on what's going
Yeah,
on.
we'll actually break down some games next time. But man, it's been a pleasure. And for all of our listeners and viewers, you can always catch us Yellowhammer Sports podcast. You can catch us on the Yellowhammer News on any platform, really, Spotify, YouTube, even online. So please stay tuned. We'll have more content for you next week. Thank you for being here.
My guy, appreciate you.